Hi, I'm psychology professor Bruce Hinrichs. In this video, I'm going to talk about some personality traits, some that are good, some that are bad, some that are downright ugly. Let's start by listing 3 helpful personality traits and then 3 harmful personality traits. Okay, first, the helpful human qualities. Number 1, compassion. This is the sympathetic concern for the misfortunes or the suffering of other people and a desire to help alleviate that suffering. A second helpful human personality trait is altruism, altruistic behavior. This is a type of helping behavior in which we will help somebody not because we gain from it, but purely to help them. And our third helpful human quality is empathy, being able to put yourself in another person's place, understanding, being aware, being sensitive to that person's experience. Now for 3 harmful personality traits, we have what psychologists call the Dark Triad. Triad meaning 3 traits that tend to go together: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. The first of the Dark Triad, narcissism. This is the egotistical personality trait, a person who needs admiration, believes that they're special, they want to be the center of attention, they expect special treatment, they have no empathy, they think rules do not apply to them, rules only apply to people below them. Narcissists view themselves as superior to everyone else. They absolutely require admiration and attention constantly. They use people to get their own ends, and then they discard them, throw them away. They have no empathy. They are unable to put themselves in somebody else's place. Some of the common behaviors of a narcissist: conceited, boastful, they monopolize conversation, they look down on others, they have a sense of entitlement. They get impatient or angry if they're not given special treatment. They can have a narcissistic fit of anger. They insist on having the best of everything. They are not good at handling criticism. They will have rage or contempt if someone challenges them. Here's a cartoon at the Narcissism Treatment Center. Please take a number. Of course, the numbers are all number 1. The second trait in the Dark Triad is called Machiavellianism. The name comes from an Italian political philosopher named Niccolo Machiavelli, who lived 400 years ago. And in a book called The Prince, Machiavelli proposed that a person in power should use immoral behavior such as deceit and even murder in order to stay in power. So Machiavellianism is a trait in which a person is manipulative. They exploit other people. They have no regard for morals, for right and wrong. They're deceptive, and they believe that the end justifies the means. Any means are okay. A person who is high in Machiavellianism believes it's better to be feared than to be loved, and that the ends will justify the means. Do anything to get power and status and money. People low in Machiavellianism value loyalty and relationships, and they're concerned about other people's opinions. Here's a cartoon in which a politician is asked, "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" But the politician is holding the book, The Prince, by Niccolo Machiavelli, and says, "Oh my gosh, straight to the tough questions, huh?" It's Boris Johnson of England. Perhaps you know the TV show Family Guy. Well, little Stewie in the Family Guy tends to be quite high in Machiavellianism, and in a couple of the episodes, they show him reading the book, and he says, "Oh, Machiavelli, you've told me nothing I don't already know." And the third trait in the Dark Triad is psychopathy, what people call a psychopath. Psychopathy involves criminal behavior, impulsive behavior, selfish behavior, a lack of remorse. They don't feel sorry, and they have no conscience. This is sometimes called a sociopath or dissocial personality. In the DSM-5, the book that psychiatrists use to classify mental illnesses, this is called APD, Antisocial Personality Disorder. Antisocial means goes against society. A person who has high score on psychopathy lacks a conscience, harms others with no remorse. It has criminal behavior, uses people, is like a con artist. And this is pretty common. About 2% of the public reaches the level of antisocial personality disorder, very, very high score on psychopathy, much, much more common in men than in women, but occasionally we do see women who have high scores on psychopathy. Here's a picture of Joseph Mengele, who was the angel of death for the Nazis. Another person who was a well-known psychopath was Ted Bundy, who I call a charming murderer. He was very charming, and he could seduce women and then kill them. And he was finally caught and executed. Also, we can recommend a book called People of the Lie about psychopaths. Another example of a psychopath was Eric Harris, who had a perfectly normal childhood and normal parents in a nice community, but at Columbine High School in Colorado in 1999, he went into the school and sort of conned a friend to go into the school with him with guns and kill people, and eventually they were killed. Of course, a very famous psychopath was Adolf Hitler. When we measure psychopaths' brain activity, we find that the prefrontal cortex, the very, very front of the top part of the human brain, has decreased activity. And one of the jobs of the prefrontal cortex is to sort of control, inhibit, put the brakes on these instinctive urges that are coming from the lower brain. Well, psychopaths do a bad job of controlling their urges. Okay, if we look into the brain of a psychopath, one thing we find is decreased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the very front of the brain, the top part. But we also find a smaller amygdala. Amygdala is in the lower part of the brain. It is sometimes called the fear part of the brain, and it helps us deal with fear and threats and danger and being aware of threatening situations. Well, it turns out people with APD tend to have a smaller amygdala. They do not show fear. They will commit the same crimes over and over again and have no fear of being arrested. There are many experts who study psychopathy. One of them is Adrian Rein, who has studied the biological roots of violence and murder. And so you can look at his books for good explanations of the biological causes, the biological roots of psychopathy. Okay, now you know about the Dark Triad, 3 harmful personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. It turns out there are many other personality traits that also tend to correlate with, that go along with, that overlap with those 3, the Dark Triad. So all these traits together are known as the D factor. So D factor means a group of personality traits that are harmful that tend to overlap with one another. Here are 9 traits that psychologists have studied that tend to all go together in what we call the D factor. If you want to look at these more carefully, stop the video so that you can pay attention to them. Now you might be wondering, if there's a dark triad, is there also a light triad? Yes, there are. There is something called a light triad, meaning 3 personality traits that are helpful, that are positive. They are Kantianism, which means treat people as ends unto themselves, not just as means to get what you want. Humanism, which means valuing the dignity, the respect, the worth of each person. And third, having faith in humanity, believing the fundamental goodness of human beings. This is called the light triad. Okay, I hope you learned some interesting information about personality traits. So be sure to check out some of my other videos on my channel called Brucey. Bye.